I'm going to get through this quick because the AC is not working and you might see me melt like an ice cube. Let's do it. Don't forget about an ASM 300 9.8. You could be the winner once we hit 50,000 subs. And remember an ASM 300 9.8 because that's going to show up on this list again. Comics that I made a lot of money on. All right, first one. Ghost Rider number 31. This is the first full appearance of the Midnight Suns. 4 years ago, I got a voicemail from some guy where he and his brother were letting go of an entire collection and they wanted me to have it for free. To this day, that is still very ridiculous that happened. And sure enough, these guys were the sweetest guys in the world. They did not want a dime. In fact, they were refusing it. I did bring my checkbook and everything. They said no. So I tried to pay them. They weren't having it. One of the things that was in here was, it could have been more than 200 copies, still sealed Ghost Rider 31s. Probably 50 of them I did as giveaways. They would show up in people's packages. I think I ran a couple videos on the channel and some winners got some copies. But I was able to sell them as well, and I was getting $10 a piece for them. And so I probably sold 100 rolls of those, so 100 times 10 is pretty good. But then I started grading them, and I think I got like 59.8s of them. And I single-handedly probably ruined the value of that book, which is a lesson I have since learned. But in the beginning, they were selling for like $150 to $200 in 9.8. So I was super maximizing all potential profits on that one. That I really squeezed, I think, every dollar I could out of that issue. And that was a honey hole for me for a few years there. Next is a coverless copy of Hulk 1. This is a funny one because I met a guy at the flea market who is now like a really good friend of mine. He said he had a coverless Hulk, so I got his number, went over to his house to see a coverless Hulk, and ended up buying all this other stuff for still the best deal I've ever gotten in a collection. Once again, his number, not mine. He wanted $3,000 for everything, and I said, okay. And actually, it's funny, even though this was just 2 years ago, that was all the money I had in the world. I literally cut the check and boom, deal done. YouTube called the best collection I ever bought or something. I ended up making $20,000 off of this collection. Obviously, made a friend for life. I scratch his back, he scratches mine to this day. And what a great way to start a friendship, man. The coverless copy of Hulk, number 1. Keep in mind, this was the tail end of COVID, so I think this book's a little lower. Sold raw for $3,000. I don't know if it would be worth $3,000 now. Maybe it might be all the way down to like 2. Regardless, it well exceeded my expectations. And considering it was $3,000 for this Hulk 1, which is what I paid for the entire collection, it was just a crazy cherry on top. Next is going to be the full run of TMNT. This is a funny one because I actually got a lead on a full run of TMNT. I spent way too high. There was actually no chance of me profiting on this collection unless I started grading. Well, I'm glad I started grading because every single book in the entire volume 1 got a 9.8. You guys remember that one? I certainly do. Talk about turning a bad situation great. I'm really glad I did that instead of just trying to break even. Ended up being a really smart, and while some of them took several months to sell, in the end, I don't even know how much I made versus spent because it dwarfed it. It was crazy. Next is going to be Todd McFarlane Newsies. So I got a collection several years back now. So this is right in the middle of COVID when I was really getting comfortable with grading. And I got a collection of ASM 298 through 328. So it's the full Amazing Spider-Man run with Todd McFarlane. Some very valuable books in there, including an ASM 300. Well, kind of similar to the full run of TMNT, every single book got the 9.8 except for ASM 300. That one did get a 9.6. Okay, it was a newsstand. As you can imagine, another collection I spent a little high on, was worried about making money, and boom, got them in 9.8, and they sold in the crazy COVID peak highs, which has to be one of my best return on investments ever. Next is the full run of Spawn. Someone came into the antique shop and sold me a full run of Spawn. I dropped $5,000 on it. This was last year. I thought that the grand total really amounted to more like $7,000. So I thought it was a decent buy, and Spawn moves pretty well, so I could make $2,000 off of it. Well, I did the same thing. I was still riding the high of that TMNT haul, so I decided, let me screen these. I picked out probably 50 or 60 that looked like they could be 9.8s, and every single one of them got it. This was when I was just so spot on with my eye on potential 9.8 candidates. It's funny, I barely do any grading from the last couple years, but back then it was like, if I saw a potential 9.8 candidate, it was gone. Turns out Spawn 9.8s in the hundreds and 200s have some pretty gosh darn crazy value. So that was another honey hole for me for probably a year and a half span there. That really funded my eBay page and turned it into money I could put into other collections for a long time. Next is going to be Ghost Rider number 2, the 70s number 2. So it's the first full appearance of Son of Satan. Some people say it's the cameo, whatever. There was a shop in Doylestown called Cyborg One, and they got this collection in where it must have been a distributor pack from back in the day, because they got like damn near 40 or 50 of these things in actual near mint. I bought like 10 of them in COVID high, so they were very expensive. I think they were $200 each. It was a lot. Big investment, big risk. They almost all got 9.8s of the 10 that I bought. When I got the 9.8, they were a $2,000 9.8 fair market value, and I was able to sell a couple at that fair market value. So the return on investment was insane. The craziest part about this is I got another collection completely unrelated to that shop a little bit later that also had a few duplicates in near mint. And I said, you know what? I had such luck with them before. Let's try it again. And I got a couple 9.6s and a couple 9.8s again. So it's easily, this could have been number 1. I maybe should have made it number 1. I made thousands off of this one book alone. Still one of my best. Next is ASM 252. This was a pre-YouTube channel buy. In 2018, my local comic shop in New Hope, Phantasm Comics, had a bunch of newsstand ASM 252s. And don't ask me why, and believe me, he does not like to be reminded. He sold them all for $50. In 2018, I only had like a couple $100 to my name, and me and my buddy, he bought 1 and I bought 3. And all but 1 got the 9.8. 1 got a 9.6. I sold the 9.6 before the COVID boom. We sold another 9.8 before the COVID boom. But if you remember about COVID, this book went crazy. We ended up sending it into what I hope I'm getting this right. Was it Ron Friends? We resent it out to the Ron Friends signing. It kept the 9.8 and he remarked it, which was amazing. And that's the copy my buddy still has. And then the other one I was able to sell at the crazy COVID high. And I think a Newsy 9.8 was like $2,500 there. I think I sold it for $2,000 and was unbelievably over the moon happy to do it. So it made someone really happy to get it like $500 off. But I'll tell you, it made me happy to be making a couple thousand over my investment on that. Next is 0 Hour sets. I am the DC Universe logo hunter, self-proclaimed. I go crazy for this stuff. These are the sets that got me into comics. You have to understand. I love these things. They're hard to find. Some of them are quite rare, and they contain these DC Universe logo variants. The 0 Hour contain a variant of the DC Universe logo variants called the 0 Hour variant. I made a video talking about these variants. Someone hit me up and was like, I used to work at Toys R Us. I've got a lead on never seen before, never touched. They were all boxed up, over 100 perfectly sealed 0 Hour sets. And each one of those issues within there is a $10 to $15 book, with 2 of them being at least 20, the Wonder Woman 0 and the Superboy 0. He sold them to me at a bulk price of $7 a pack, and has been probably and will be my biggest honey hole ever. This is like a for life thing. If I'm ever low on them, I open one of them up and I sell them off, and people love them. I've gotten plenty of 9.8s. I don't need to submit any more of them. And the craziest thing is I think I've only sold like a fifth of them. I have so many of these things. It's just incredible. Next is X-Men 268. This is a classic Jim Lee cover. Well, one day I realized, once again in COVID, that this $25, $30 near mint is actually a $200+ 9.8. And it's not like I got them all in at the same time, but every time I get a near mint to mint of this copy, I send it off in the submission. I've probably gotten this book in a 9.8 maybe 15 times, although it could be more, and every single time it's sold for over $200. It's been a couple years since I've done this because frankly, I got bored with it. It's just one of those oddball books that seems to sell. I don't know what the fair market value is these days. I don't know if it's finally under 200, but for years it was well over $200 and it went every time. My luck with X-Men 268 is unparalleled. Lastly, we got to talk about the first appearance of Shang-Chi. Long before the YouTube channel, I was hunting near mint and even mint Batmans from the 70s and late 60s. I had one guy that sold this stuff so high to me, but I was just happy to do it because who was finding near mint 12-cent Batman? Anyway, I'd been making payment plans on some of this stuff for months with this guy, and kind of almost like a token of appreciation, I guess, he said, hey, you want first crack at this near mint for Shang-Chi? And I'm thinking in my head, and you got to remember, this is before the book really blew up, it's not what I collect, but what the heck. And he offered it to me for $200. And I know this is going to sound a little crazy, but that was well out of my budget back then, far out of my budget. But I thought it looked perfect in the pictures he was showing me, and all his stuff was crazy near mint. So I took a gamble. I thought maybe it'll be an investment book sometime. This is before I was grading. This is before I kind of even knew what grading was. I did buy the book. Years later, in my Batman collection, I kept it with the Batman collection because it was all from that same seller. I had this frickin' perfect copy of Shang-Chi for $200. So I got it graded now that I knew how to do that, once again, in COVID, and it got a 9.8 with white pages. Now, if you remember correctly, that was $5 to $6 grand. So that to date is still my biggest from raw to 9.8 jump that I've ever seen. That was a high I've been chasing since. I want to know, what is the biggest win that you guys got? What's a book or multiple copies of a book that you made a bunch of money on? Maybe in COVID, maybe still, maybe 20 years ago. What is a book that you really got a honey hole out of? I want to hear about it. Drop it below and keep on hunting.
Make sure to come on down to Sentiment Depot's Antiques and Collectibles, located at 238 West Delaware Ave in Pennington, New Jersey. Find so many great books for just $1 and the lowest prices on key comics around. Enjoy a huge selection of graded comics priced up to 20% lower than current fair market value. We are open from Wednesday to Sunday, closed Monday, Tuesday. You got a collection you want to sell? Bring that too. Can't wait to see you there.